Real Estate Maven, thank you so much for watching this video today. If you came here from YouTube or any of my social media sites, I appreciate you for being here and checking out this video. So right now, what I'm presenting to you is what's going on in our Mableton area since the beginning of the year. This is going to be for June 2022. I am, again, Jackye Mumphrey, the Real Estate Maven, second generation realtor since 1999, and a Mableton specialist and resident since 2003. So I wanted to share a little bit with you guys as to what's going on, explaining the market a little bit, talking about some market stats, some of my opinions on what our market is doing and how it will affect homeowners going into the summer months. So right now in our market, we're looking at 50 homes for sale in all of Mableton for listed properties in FMLS.com. The average we're looking at is $448,000 for homes that are on the market, 26 days on the market, and listed from 175 up to 1.65 million. And for homes with a contract, which means a buyer and seller have come to a meeting of the minds and are decided to go into contract with each other, their homes are averaging 441,000 with 11 days on the market. And homes that have sold up to the beginning of this year till now, we're roughly at 270 with an average price of $368,000 with 16 days on market. So I want to break down these numbers just a little bit here, real quick here for you. So with the average price at 448, that's going to of course be skewed by the higher end luxury homes that we're seeing in our market currently coming up for sale. Because ordinarily in Mableton, our price points are actually a little closer to the high threes, but with a lot of these higher end homes coming into the market, that has upped our average. For the homes that are under contract, these are going to be for listed sales in FMLS, which is first multiple listing service. This does not include all of the listed, the unlisted inventory that you would see with new homes, because some builders do not list all of their inventory on market, nor do for sale by owners generally list their homes in our system. So this is going to give you the best indicator as to what's going on with listed properties, with it kind of skewed a little bit for those if you go through the tax record research, which is a little bit more extensive. This will give you a better indication as to what's typically going on, like a timestamp in the market of what things are going for. And for the homes that sold at 270, I see that drop in there at 368,000 with 16 days on market. That really does not mean that the homes have dropped in price at all. This is reflective as to what's going on up to the beginning of the year, which would mean, of course, naturally you would conclude that homes in January would be selling for less, if all things being equal, than homes, say, here in June. So it's an average of both, all 6 months of the, or 5.5 months of the real estate listed data that we have. So that's kind of the balance of what we're looking at. It's a good indicator as to see where the market, if you look at solds, it'll tell you where the market was. The pending sales here in the middle at 441,000 will tell you where the market is. This is where buyers are right now. And then the actives is what people hope to sell for in the future. And I hope that's helpful, because that's kind of how I explain it to my own customers, so they have a full understanding of where they are in the pendulum of the market. So why are homes sitting longer than others? Okay, so 2 years ago, at the start of the worldwide event that we had in 2020, houses were flying off the market. They were selling faster than hotcakes. They were selling faster than anyone was able to find toilet paper. I don't know if you guys remember that or not, but our market was red hot. And then I think the top of the market, in my own opinion, would have been August of 2020, and then we kind of just vacillated back and forth with peaks in our market, where it kind of slowly continued to go up. We are selling higher now than we were 2 years ago, but as far as like the height of the market, where we saw properties going for sale within going under contract in 9 hours in Mableton, that was in 2020. We're not seeing that at all in our current market in June of 2022. So there's definitely been a shift. We are seeing a continual increase in pricing, but they're taking longer, and I think it's because buyers are a lot more savvy. We've had so many buyers come into our market that have been shut out just due to the competition to where they've studied the market longer, picking out the homes that they want to pursue. So where we were back then would sell houses, like I said in March of 2020, we could sell a house in 2 or 3 days. Now we're starting to slowly increase market-wise up into that double digit up to 20, 22, 23 days, especially in our suburban areas around Mableton. So like in Atlanta, Smyrna, Austell, Marietta, they're starting to see longer days on market. We're still hovering at 16, but we're slowly increasing. So we're getting our prices, but it's taking longer, and we don't have as many buyers in the buyer pool as we did 2 years ago, which would make sense because we've had people settle in our area. Home offerings are not as attractive as they once were. So meaning 2 years ago, if you are familiar with Mableton and say you're looking at a property on Fontaine Road, it's one of the main roads in Mableton. And 2 years ago, you could find a 4-side brick home hovering around the mid-4s to the high 4s. Those same brick homes now are looking between $6 and $675 on average. Collins Lake community, 2 years ago, you could buy in that community in the high 4s. You are in mid-4s till high 4s. You're now looking at one. There's one that popped up and went under contract in the 700 range. So the prices have gone up extremely high in some areas of Mableton, but they're taking longer to sell because so many houses have turned. We're kind of seriously running out of inventory because people are just not turning the houses back over, and a lot of the buyers are kind of starting to look in other areas further out, like Hiram, Dallas, Villa Rica, Douglasville, Winston. They're moving further out, so we're losing a little bit of our buyer pool to the outer areas because we don't have as much inventory turning over. So our prices are increasing, it's just taking longer, and the buyers are not perceiving the value like they used to in Mableton. I kind of hinted on it a little bit, where we're seeing sellers just kind of put anything up on the market because they're like, okay, the market's doing good, this interest rates are going up, so maybe I need to go ahead and put my house on the market because I don't want to miss my opportunity to try to get money for my house in the best market we've ever had in the world in our current existence. So some of them are just kind of throwing their houses up. They're not really being consulted, in my opinion, by my colleagues in the field as to how to best prepare their property to get the maximum dollars, which also contributes to them taking longer to sell on the market. So how do you resolve this? You want to prepare the home properly for market, declutter, remove personal effects. No one needs to know that you went to UGA. No one needs to know when you got married or look at your wedding dress. Like, take all that personal stuff down. It doesn't help to sell the house. It doesn't make it more homey. It just actually distracts. Make all of your exterior repairs. So if you've got a gutter that's kind of pulling away from the house or gutters are full, or you've got a tree that needs to be cut down because it's pretty much dead and leaning, you want to go ahead and start working on that stuff now because it does affect value. Even if you want to present your property onto the market as an as-is sale, or even if you want to sell to an iBuyer company that will come and pay cash, where they will give you the price that you're asking. They will typically knock your price down considerably to the point where it will almost, actually typically it does cost more than if you used a regular realtor to sell your property, and you don't get the bidding war that a lot of people are taking advantage of right now. But even if you sell to them, they're going to take note of all that and discount your price because the house is not in the condition in which they would want to buy ordinarily, unless they are compensated for the things that they feel that it needs. You should have your home systems serviced. It's summertime, so this is, even if the house is vacant, or even if you're living in your house, it's now a good time to go ahead and have your HVAC system serviced anyway, just so that it's cooling properly, not expending any unnecessary energy trying to cool the house down because it doesn't have enough Preon or Freon in it or whatnot. Those type of things should be done anyway. You want to make sure you're pricing it correctly for the condition and in the market. And what that means is if your neighbors' houses are all selling for $450,000 and their houses are immaculate, you shouldn't anticipate your house that needs a lot of work going on the market for $475 just because it might be a little bit bigger or might have an extra bedroom or bathroom. You have to price it for the condition, the cost, what is it's going to take to get it back into the market. And if there's conditions of the house that you don't want to spend money, or you're not in a position to spend money, you have to be mindful that your buyer is going to have to spend the money to get the house in a similar condition, or the condition that they want it to be in for themselves. People are not buying willy-nilly like they once were, where when we had that really, really big buyer frenzy, like I said, in August of 2020. So you want to just present a little bit better. You don't necessarily have to do a full-on renovation. We're not talking, new appliances and flooring and all of that. We're just making it look presentable, nice and clean. If you go and look online at some of the vacant homes that are in our area that are in your price point, you can compare your homes to those and how they look, and then compare your homes to homes that have been professionally staged and how they look, which will give you a guide kind of where you need to be. Or you'll talk to a professional like myself who is seasoned and one who knows how to present properly so that you can get the maximum price and sell fast. You want to make sure that you are signing all your property disclosures. One of the things that I am seeing a lot of is people in the field, in my field, are not advising their property owners to fill out their disclosure documentation as to the condition in which they know their house to be in, like their HVAC, water heaters, anything wrong with the house that may not be noticed just from the street or doing a cursory walkthrough, but will surely show up during a home inspection. You want to actually negotiate those things up front within the price, or you want to put them into your pricing so that when it's time to negotiate, everybody has already put their chips on the table and they're going to offer you the best price. There is no sneaking things in under a buyer, even in this market. They are going to find out, especially if they're working with professionals. They'll either find out now or find out later, and we are going to see, because we've already have seen, a lot more lawsuits happening from non-disclosure. So fill out those disclosures. If your agent doesn't offer you one, say, oh, you haven't lived in the house for 20 years, you don't have to fill that out. That is actually against the law. Sellers have to disclose the conditions of their properties and their known effects of the properties. That is Georgia law. Even if you're not 100% sure because you didn't live there, because you inherited a property or was a rental property, if you spent money on this house in any capacity, you most likely know what you spent the money on, and those are some items in which you can disclose. Disclose, disclose, disclose. It is vitally important. There have been lawsuits that have been started over it as of late, and I think it's because a lot of these buyers moved very swiftly in the market. Were buying homes without having an inspection. Sellers were not disclosing things that they know about their house, like leaks and bad roofs and houses that caught fire and all types of different things that they're finding out after the fact. And these sellers are learning a hard lesson with letters from attorneys telling them about something that happened with their home that they just sold. So next thing is you want to present your property when it is time to sell, no matter who your buyer is going to be, if it's going to be on the market or if you're going to sell it off market. You want the presentation to be stellar, because that affects your price more than anything else. And I said it slowly and with effect for a reason. It really, really, really matters. You want people salivating and practically boxing in your front yard for your home. And it only happens when the homes are in great shape for the price that you're asking. If you're asking to sell a home that needs work, you price it accordingly and let the market drive your home up in value, and have the buyers back their sale with cash. And I can get into that in another video called appraisal gap coverage. But you want to make sure that they're in a position to really have a desire for your home and buy it and be able to back their sale with cash, because you've done the work to get it to where it needs to be to attract the widest band of buyers you could possibly have. So you want to prep your home, you want to price it right, you want to present it properly, you want to make sure that when it goes into the market that it looks almost irresistible to the buyer, saying, my gosh, that is the best home for that price. We have got to go buy it, and no matter what, we have got to get it. This is what we're willing to do. Presentation is vitally important. And then once again, you know who your buyer is, you can put your best foot forward for them and attract that very buyer. So no matter if it's an investor buyer, if it's say a buy and hold buyer, which is a type of investment buyer, an iBuyer, or a regular owner occupied person that wants to come and buy that property, you want to present. Photography is your best friend. Your realtor should not be using cell phones to take pictures of your most prized possession. If you're selling a $400,000 house, there is no reason that anyone should be using a $800 phone to take pictures of it. No matter how much of a whiz or how wonderful they can take selfies, it is not a professional photo unless it has professional camera equipment with a professional photographer taking your home, or videographer. You know, depending on where it is in Mableton, some Mableton areas you can't do this because of the Charlie Brown Airport close by, but drone photography is important. Videography where it's needed is very important. Having nice crisp photos makes all the difference. You would have a very hard time finding multi-million-dollar properties with horrible pictures in Atlanta. It's just not done. And although you may not be selling $1 million home, you should still have $1 million experience from the people who you hire to present your property to get it to sell. So here in the photos, I did a quick little snapshot of a before and after. The small picture is of a vacant home that I sold. I listed this one for $429,000, which was pretty much at the top of the market. We ended up getting $457,000 cash on this property. They did elect to go ahead and have an appraisal so that they would have their value set, and the value did come back at my suggested price at $430,000. I listed at $429,000. It came back at $430,000. But the buyer said that they really wanted the house and was able to bid it up and pay cash at $457,000. So this photo down here is how it looked originally. This photo here is how the property was staged, and we had this done graphically. So we had the photographer come out with the great lighting, with the great camera, and then we had the graphic artist come in and overlay the furniture so that spatially on the marketing and in the brochures, people could have an idea of how crisp and clean and organized and basically staged a house could be, you know, how it could be furnished. And so that's just one of the photos that we did. We do several of these for our vacant properties. So I wanted to show you that. So it's very important to make sure that things are staged in a way so that you can get the best buyers and achieve the best price. So communication, super important. Saying it loud, saying it proud, telling the Mableton story. It is kind of a disappointment for me when I go and look at other competing companies who have properties for sale here in Mableton, and they don't take the time to tell our story. It takes so much more, and it's so much better, at least in my opinion, to tell the story of our town in whatever way you can, in whatever capacity, along with the placement of the home in our area. So too often that I see that, again, we don't have the great photography that we're seeing that highlights the home. We don't see photos that highlight the area, like our community gardens, our amphitheater, our river, our Silver Comet Trail, our parks, our lakes. We are not seeing that showcase, and that's part of the Mableton story, that our small hometown feel. A lot of agents will talk about Smyrna or the Brave Stadium, which all that is fine, but they neglect to talk about the attributes of Mableton and telling the stories about what this town means to people and how people can move in and join and fold into our fabric of Mableton. I'm very adamant about that. I'm very proud of the town that I chose to live in. I'm very proud of the people here. We have all walks of life, blue collar, white collar, different social economic backgrounds. It is just a wonderful, mixed, enjoyable, economically diverse place. And although sometimes people feel we're the redheaded stepchild of South Cobb, I do think that we have a story here that is so undertold that people feel sometimes other parts of town may be more attractive to them, and willing to pay to live in those areas and live in that congestion and those crime-ridden areas and traffic and all that, because they've been told the wrong story about our town. So in presenting this is so important. You take so much more now than just a basic MLS listing, a sign in the yard and an open house, because if that's all that it took, we wouldn't be having homes that take 16 days to sell. We would have homes that would only take a day to sell. So we have to tell the story. We're now, like I said, starting to approach the 20-day mark slowly but surely. It's because we are not celebrated enough in our part of town. And I beat on that every single opportunity that I have to share with people, because they are missing a jewel. We're not necessarily the most polished jewel, but we are the best jewel in the crown. And I will run up that hill and stake my flag on that. So anyway, I appreciate you all so much for listening to this. And if you've listened all the way to the end, I really appreciate you. Please comment below. I would love to engage with you, talk with you, talk about real estate in our area, talk about Mableton, talk about the Mableton cityhood that they're kind of throwing up in the air, and like to see what your guys' take is on that. So thank you so much again for watching, and as always for your support. If you are interested in getting a value on your home from a realtor's perspective instead of a computer program online, you can always start at my website at therealestateMaven.net, and to do a home evaluation, you can do it online. And if you want any more in-depth information about what's going on in our area, I'll be glad to talk with you. You can call me at 678-929-8330. Thank you so much, and I appreciate you.